Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and with us today is Terrie Christine. Terrie is an intuitive energy healer who focuses on the subconscious. She helps you access clarity, results, understanding, a sense of peace, and freedom by clearing away your stories and fears wrapped around old energetic blocks that hold you back. Within a matter of seconds, Terrie can uncover the history of the experience you faced that led to the creation of your limiting beliefs. She works with clients all over the world and continues to be a source of emotional and spiritual healing in the self-empowerment community. Welcome to the show, Terrie. It's really great to have you here with us.
I go,
and the crowd roars.
And it roars, and in she comes. Thank you so much, Jill, for having me. And I am fully grateful for you saying yes to help you and help me and help the world to what it is that I do, and to give some juicy nuggets for your listeners and to help empower them. So thank you.
So how did you get started with this? Did you just wake up one day and realize, hey, I am this powerful human being and I'm here with a purpose?
Yeah, it actually boiled down to the end of a 14-year relationship. And, all of us souls, want love. And I was pouring into him so much so that I had nothing left to pour. And so when you get that low and you become an empty vessel, self-destructive thoughts come in, and depression creeps in that you can't pull out of. And I didn't want to live anymore. And I knew we had 2 little girls, and I knew they would be fine, but I couldn't physically do it. But I knew that this higher power could. And so I woke up and I climbed into the bathroom and gut wrenched, like, take me. But literally I called it through my soul. And then as I was laying there, I was so fully present. I could feel the coldness of the tiles. I started feeling expanded. And you could label it like a form of lucid dreaming. I was wide awake when my eyes were closed, and things started happening, and being in this state of oneness and in the universe. Like, there were stars all over me. I thought I could touch them. They were around me. There was this dampness and this expansion. And I felt a bliss. I felt all my emotional and physical pain was gone. I knew that I was complete. And then I heard 3 simple words: love will come. It was just like that, very masculine. I was in the center of that speaking to me. Everything that I had been asking for, nothing else, just love. And I literally just went, what? Because then at that time, I was full-blown corporate, didn't know anything about this work. I mean, I didn't even know what yoga was. I literally was that far detached from this type of energy work, and through yoga. And the next day I went to bed and everything changed. He created 1950 towels where dinner was on the table when he came home, even though I had a full-time job. I was taking care of the kids. I was taking care of the inside of the house. He watched TV, read his newspaper. Oh, I'm going to go mow the yard. But I'm like overwhelmed with taking care of 4 people and all the extra requirements to manage this house on top of a full-time job. as a director of sales, bringing in millions of dollars for this company. And so when I went to bed and woke up, I had this just dying feeling. Interesting, I'm using that word, but this feeling that I had to go to the bookstore. And I didn't have time to read books based on everything I just told you, and no time for me. So I went and I started like, wait a minute, what can I do knowing that this love is coming, that like I'm gonna get it. Yay, finally. I've been begging for it for 14 years. And I was picking up Wayne Dyer, Esther and Jerry Hicks, and he's no longer on this planet, but she still roars away. And Eckhart Tolle and all of these masters when it comes to understanding that there's more to life than just what you're using your eyes and your ears for. And then I got the strength after reading these books so quickly. I almost became like a speed reader and I couldn't understand. I was like, what's happening to me? And then it was making sense. And the truth always makes sense. And so I got the strength to leave him. And then I went on the journey. So I started stepping into like, what is this Reiki stuff? And somebody did something on me a couple of times. And I'm like, oh, I think I might want to try that. And that was pretty interesting when she did the second process and she lifted me off the chair. Like my whole entire body was not touching the chair. And that was at the very beginning of transforming where I am today. And these magical things happening, going, what in the world? But then getting excited about these things happening, like this is really happening. So you can call me a skeptic back then, but not to the point where it turned down my curiosity. I'm always curious and learning and expanding and seeing the world in a different lens, if you want to say it like that. And so I literally used that. And then as I've developed where I am after 19 years, I said, you know what? The purpose in life is to expand and grow, and everything else is a choice. And once I realized how deep I was in turmoil and despair and my own thoughts of what I was not receiving, I realized, you know what? I didn't love myself. Because I poured in so much to everyone that I forgot that I was a somebody, that everybody else was a somebody but me. And then when I just realized and started, learning intuitive development and mediumship work and spent 5 years on a psychic website. So expanding all of the things, and my superpowers are clairaudient and clairvoyant and clairsentient, meaning I can see movies in my head and hear conversations. And everyone has this clairsentient, but 90% of the people ignore it. But I live in it. I trust it 100% and provide the results for both myself and my client because I trust it so deeply. And that's how I ended up catapulting where I am, and to not really wanting life and living life fully.
Beautiful story. I just the journey from total despair to really living. And there's an old quote from Braveheart where the main character says, everybody dies, but few men truly live.
Mm-hmm. And I that's exactly, and what a wonderful quote that you just said, because that was exactly what I felt that I went through.
Yeah. It's important that we grasp that this is now. Life happens in the now. And I think that what you're doing is helping people to be able to experience the now in the best way they possibly can.
Yes. As I was sharing, I work in the subconscious space, and like you and I and the listeners, this is consciously engaged. And subconscious, you're triggered when people, places, and things are, you're experiencing them, and that feeling is bubbling up and triggered, and then you get an emotional confrontation with other people or within yourself. And within that, when you're full blown in it, there are so many opportunities to see it differently, to go from crying to laughing and realizing, whoa, wait a minute, I might have called for this because your thoughts created that. Your thoughts are like atomic bombs. You can have one thought and it blows everything up around you. We do create it. I created my situation with the father of my children. I created it from my childhood and what my mom showed me every day on how to handle, my dad and his long haul, trucking and not being home and living like she was a single mom and struggling. But when he was home, she showed him that everything was perfect and it wasn't. It was far from perfect when he wasn't. And then my grandmother, serve and to serve and service your mate to make them happy, and that's all I knew. And I share my story because I just said it was all I knew. Your neighbor or your best friend or your best pal has lived a different life and a different story and different parents and different environments, and they're not going to have the same thoughts and say, I would never do that. I know, the balance. I didn't. I thought that pouring into your mate was the perfect balance. And so my soul was tortured in what I was shown and told to do versus what I really wanted. I wanted an equal partner to help me, to hold my hand, and he struggled because he was from a family of 8. So all of those little beings, disconnected because there's so many beings that needed love from one individual mother and father. And so understanding what I created, because he didn't have to pour into me because I did it so professionally. I did everything. He just sat back to receive. And in his mind, he was saying, she is so happy. Look at how much she loves to serve me. And so that makes her happy. And that's actually the conclusion that both of us determined when I realized I didn't shut it down at the very beginning. That I said, oh, this guy has so much promise and he's so handsome and he's, dot, dot, dot. We'll fill in the blanks for everybody. And then after I did not have anything but an empty vessel left because I wasn't receiving any portion of the love that I was pouring out, then I realized, hey, and people get tortured. Like if I'm giving so much and then resentment picks in and so many other things that, you know, and that's why we'll get to that state of feeling like we want to unalive ourselves because we're like, is this it? And then knowing that it really isn't when we pull out of the emotional state that we stuck ourselves in. And then to see things differently is such an amazing transformation in anyone that could at least stop long enough and say, I want something so different and I'm going to do whatever it takes.
We both came from an era when it was just expected that you would get married and you would stay married, and a marriage, my grandmother used to say marriages were 60-40 proposition and both sides had to give 60, but I didn't really understand that till I was a lot older. And my first marriage ended, it ended. And I was in a similar situation. I lived in San Diego at the time, and there was this bridge that I would drive down every day and it had curved. And I found myself thinking, if I could just gun it and go right off the edge.
Oh.
And when it really hit me that I was considering that alternative to going home, and I had kids and a husband, and I'd been married for 13 years, and I was just like, I've got to do something different because that's not really the answer. And I didn't really have a support network. My parents weren't in a position where they would support me in any way if I left him. But I did actually leave him, and life changed dramatically
Mm.
in in that. But my point is that we we lived in a time when everyone was just expected that the woman would have a full-time job and take care of the house and do all the cleaning and do all the everything. And it gets to a point of, what do I need you for exactly? Because you're just more work. I'm not getting
Yeah.
anything out of this relationship other than I'm resenting the fact that I'm having to parent you too. It, it, it just, when you get
Yes.
to that point, it's like something has to change because we can't, and it was back before the internet. So, I mean,
Yes.
now we have ways to reach out to one another and to support each other and to say, hey,
Yes.
go
But
girl.
yes, but think about it. So my grandmother showed my mother that, my mother showed me that, and I showed my children that until I left him. Now, when I see my thriving 28 and 26-year-old, my 28-year-old, I see her patterns and trying to make him happy, but I also see where when I gain the strength to shut it all down and build back up, I see her saying no. I see her communicating. I see that she's saying, these are my feelings, and that he is giving back to her and helping her through some of the things that I also put upon her. And so somewhere the cycle has to stop, because when we're living just existing, those patterns will continue. Like you yourself finally, got the strength to say, oh my God, look at where I'm thinking and look at where I shouldn't be going in that direction. I got to do something about it. And that's something, there's so much fear, like you said, where am I going to go? And what's it going to turn into? But it's trusting that you've already been thriving and surviving all at the same time in these relationships, that you're automatically going to thrive no matter what. You're not going to have to, you're actually relinquishing the connection to survival mode. That's why things change so drastically once you get out of situations like we experienced.
When the universe opens up, something different comes along, and I, it, it's just you're just choosing to go down a different path, and it doesn't say anything about you, and it really doesn't even say anything about your partner that you left. It's just that it's not a good place for you to be together. I'm still friends with my ex-husband
Yeah.
30 years later.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome. I'm not.
some people
But that's
do.
okay. Hmm.
He's changed a lot over the years. A lot of the problem was that he was an alcoholic, and he gave up
Oh,
alcohol about, gosh, it might even be like 16, 17 years ago. It was a
uh,
long time ago when my oldest daughter started having kids, and she's almost 18 now. Um, but she, he's really changed and turned his life around. And I don't harbor any animosity towards him. I'm
yeah,
really actually very grateful that I was allowed to have this other life, and I've had a
yeah,
whole nother life that I put together in a very different way this
yes,
time.
yes. So to be grateful is to say, I now reflect back on the experience that I now clearly, and thank you, former partner, for showing me my weaknesses that I turned into my strengths.
Yeah, that, that's the story.
Yes, 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 yes.
And
Very
anybody can
powerful.
have that story. And now it's like you don't need to stay trapped in relationships, in situations, in jobs that you
Yes.
that aren't really allowing you to grow and thrive and contribute back. And I think that is what you do with your coaching. So do you want to talk a little bit about how that looks and who you work with? And
Yeah, yeah. So it's very, and I want to add the rest of what you just said, is that we don't have to stay in situations that don't support our soul on the level of our soul, right? And I I still am this, intuitive, and I work through, but I still have a physical body that has an emotional connection. And I call it's like a tumbleweed, all the interweavings of your limiting beliefs and your emotions, right? And so I was working out of a wellness center before I started filming the Love and Marriage DC that, I was on season 1 and season 2. And I manifested that. I'm a master manifester, so we'll lead into that in a minute. But I I realized that I was hanging on to what I was interpreting with my eyes, a perfect experience for my clients, because they had a salt cave and I had a private room, and melding the two experiences with group work and salt cave and then private, that I was hanging on so much that I was starting to feel the same turmoil in that 14-year relationship, not feeling the love in return, doing everything I can to pour more into it and more into it. And in the end, I was crying a lot. And I was seeing, again, this is exactly how we all end up doing it. And even intuitives get sucked out into their old patterns. And I got sucked into an old pattern. And I kept saying, what am I going to do? Which I'm already was doing. I was filming a show. I'm like, where am I going to go? And then I finally stopped and quieted my mind. Listen up, everyone. Stopped and quieted my mind, focused my meditation on saying, what will it take to catapult to another great adventure so that I can feel supported, feel love, and know that I can continue to my best and highest good. And within a week, one of my clients came to me and said, I found this opportunity. It's in Potomac, which is only 20 minutes less from where I am, my house. And you should take a look. Well, Potomac is this, high-end area. And so I went, and I'm like, I can do this. And I did it a week before the show aired. And it was the perfect lily pad for me to land in, to get to through all of the clients that came and the experiences and the exposure. And then, my contract was for 2 weeks. And then I said, okay, excuse me, not 2 weeks. I apologize, 2 years. Then we started moving down to the end of the contract. And I said, okay, am I going to stay, God, or am I going to move to a next great adventure? And when I started focusing on that, then I saw a picture was presented from a friend of where I was going to move next. And as soon as I saw the picture of the building, I knew that I was moving there. I literally set up a contractor before I even saw the place. I knew all I had to do was sign on the dotted line. And when I walked in, he showed me this one. And I said, no, yeah, let me take a look. He goes, well, I had this one that just opened up. And as soon as he opened the door, I said, do you have a pen? He laughed at me. And he says, really? We haven't talked. I said, no, I need a pen. Let's sign. So it happened so magically because I had to let go. I was resisting and letting go of what I thought was perfect, which was an environment that was not perfect for my soul. And then it all came together. And so working with me is very similar to that. You have to let go of the resistance on what you think the end result is going to look like, because it's not working for you now, because that's why you're in emotional struggle, you're in lack, you need clarity and can't find it. And it's all of those leaves that are piled on top of you. And each one of these leaves represent an experience that you had as you were coming up in the world. It doesn't mean that you had an emotionally or physically abusive guardian or parent. It simply means there were all these interactions. It could be as simple as you drawing a picture and mom on the phone. You ask her to look at this picture and she forgets. Then you say as a child, I have to work harder to be the perfect person. I have to work harder to be seen and heard. Then as an adult, so we're moving your timeline forward, you go to work, you're really organized, you get your work done, you're sitting and you're looking at your coworkers who seem to be struggling. And then you say, can I help you? Can I help you? You get it done. They all get it done. Everybody goes home and you're exhausted saying, why is anybody else not working as hard as me? Because you owned back then, you have to work harder to be seen and heard. So what I do is I'll work in your subconscious to reveal those things. over 19 years of practice, there's, patterns that are so common. It's not very often I don't see anything new, but when I do, it's like a kid in a candy store going, woo, something new. It's so true. And so I reveal, so I'm not talk therapy. So I'll close my eyes and I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient. So that means I can see movies in my head, hear conversations, and the clairsentient is just knowing. So I'll say, Jill, I don't care what you say. I can feel it, girl. I am right on top of it. And that's the clairsentient that I trust 100%. And all of the other superpowers that I have, I trust 100%. It's about being the seeker of the truth, helping you see things from your subconscious that you cannot, because you're living consciously and you're being triggered. So when you come to me, normally people say, what about me? Meaning they've been pouring into other people, like the stories we shared, and there's nothing left. Oh, I felt that right go to my heart. So yeah, and then now I've really determined that, I went down all the way to almost no return. And I said, people can experience emotional, physical stuff right now, but work with me. One time, that's it, no more. And then I shifted out of the subconscious. So the end result will look like, oh, I have clarity now and I understand why I'm being triggered like that. Or, that doesn't seem to bother me anymore. I hear that a lot. They'll get off the table and say, I feel lighter because now they're not pulling behind the 18-wheeler of all the stuff that they've been hanging on to. And then I give them tips and tricks and how to see things differently, how to respond differently, and know that if they just step into this and taking baby steps, you don't have to jump over the mountain to get to the other side. You can calmly take the baby steps to get it deeper and heal through it versus like a pharmaceutical and just covering up. We're not about covering up your symptoms. We're about healing everything so that life does feel satisfied, supportive, and empowered, that you are reclaiming everything that you say you want and you're doing it and you're getting it.
Why do you think that people can't really break free from their own junk?
Yeah. So, I kind of like put a little pin in what I was saying is that we're here right now talking about our stories because we can remember the stories. But when an intuitive is working with you, they're going to when you were 1, 3. And unless it was so profound that you remember when mom and dad argued and he ran out the door, because that's a life altering experience a child is looking at. But you may not remember the story, like I said, that you were drawing a picture and mom forgot to come back and what you owned in that time and space. Children will say things to themselves that aren't true.
Hey all, I'm Jill Hart. We all know that legal matters can be costly and stressful. Finding the right representation and dealing with high retainers and hourly bills adds up fast. But what if I told you there was a way to have legal insurance, just like your health or auto insurance? Well, Legal Shield has leveled that playing field. From just $29.95 a month, you get access to lawyers for personal legal matters, from traffic tickets to real estate issues or even trust matters. Help is just a tap away on your phone. Call or text 435-764-0875 and use the code JillLegal or start your journey to legal protection today.
I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart, or whatever you're going to start putting on top of yourself. But it's like a house. You buy the house and you're in the house, but you're done with the house because it doesn't serve your needs. You contract out of the house, sign it, sold, delivered, and you go to another house. But your subconscious isn't that. It's still signed on to what you said and what you chose to believe about those experiences and yourself. And so now, as your subconscious, you can't go back and say, oh yeah, when I was 1, I remember those times when dad would push me and then I didn't feel like he was really in it because he was on the phone all the time. So then that doesn't make me feel loved because it's fake love. Yep. Children feel it. And then they have a hard time connecting to their partner because the partner will show them that there's some form of love, but they don't feel it. And so they'll hesitate and hold back to say, "Ooh, I got to be protective of my own heart because this is not going to work out the way I think." Because again, it's the subconscious saying, be careful. It's not real, right? And then being able to go and move forward with your life. But it's the subconscious that people cannot dig in and remember those little bitty memories. And then I'm the one, or an intuitive can say, "Hey, I'm picking up that you have a mom block, and I'm picking up that it was the age of 6. And this is what happens when you're 6 years old. And let me watch the movie." And I'm telling them about them. And that's why the work is so profound. I don't need to hear your stories. Just give me your first name and we're good. I'll tell you about you. You'll say yes, 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 which they do, and then we'll shift it. And then
Okay,
that
I'm going to
way
stop
you
you
do
right
feel
there
better.
because you
Yes.
just,
Yes,
you don't
please.
know me. We just
No.
met
Yes.
and you just hit
Yes.
on my
Because I was,
things.
yes, because I
I'm
actually
just
was
letting the
asking.
listeners know that
Hmm. Yes.
she's not just
Yeah.
talking here.
Yeah, I did. So what I do, and I'm Jill, thank you for stopping and acknowledging that, because I can do it covertly, and I usually do when I'm on podcasts. And I know what to say and not to say. But I was connecting to your energy. I did ask, I don't know if you saw my eyes move to the left, because I said, okay, I go into inside. And so when I look up, I'm looking inside and saying, okay, God, give me what I need. And so I did ask really quick. So there's 5 ways you can pick up the limiting beliefs, but I instantaneously got your mom. I looked up really quick because I always show a ruler up from 0 to 7 because that's usually where they begin. And I saw 6 hard, but it gave me an 8 really quick. But I knew if I went into that, I'd spend a little more 20 minutes explaining the age of 6 and 8. But it was more prominent at 6, but it had a
Six.
little
It's
bit of
6 when
8.
it started
Yes, yes.
and
And
8 when
again,
it
it
was
was
just like the break happened.
there you go. So, and I saw it really quick, but I focused on 6, and then I could have gone deeper into your story, but I was just explaining how it works. So thank you for
I just wanted
acknowledging
to
that is
validate that
exactly what I was doing.
what you're talking about, you're like
Yes.
spot on.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But it works exactly like that. So, and then I'll hear every once in a while another podcaster said, well, when you have to ask for, to step into their energy, I'm like, excuse me, that's like so old school, really? I said, no, everything is energy. You came to me as I came to you. You said yes to be on the podcast. When people come and send me emails, call me, text me, they're saying, yes, you're resonating with me. They're opening their energy up. When someone starts communicating and talking with me, even as a friend, they're opening their energy up. Now, I'm not the shock and awe, meaning I won't go to the grocery store, walk around and say, oh, I can feel someone's grandmother. Who is it? Oh, I'll go over there. Because grandma may have been emotionally abusive and they don't want to talk to grandma. And grandma wants to say, I want to forgive you, or please forgive me, excuse me. And I want to hear that. But no, grandma, it's not working on my dime. You go through another medium.
Yeah, go
Because
find somebody else to spread your
exactly.
messages.
Exactly. Because I know how that could come. I wouldn't want, someone who was abusive trying to tell me they're so, so sorry when I may still be trying to heal from that. And so I will have, talk to people, or if I'm at a party and they ask me what I do, and when they say, "Ooh, read me." Well, first off, I'm not a circus show, but I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What is it that you're like, needing? And then I'll just go boom, boom, boom. And I'll like, just like you, hold on, wait a minute. You just picked up everything. And then I'll just kind of reveal that is how it works, because all of the practice, my processing that I do instantaneously and then share to reveal, to help you understand, like, those at that age, and it was mom, we don't have to go deep into the story. That, when we were together, we go into the deep story, and then I shift it so that you don't have to keep going back to that moment in time and go back to her and say, it's about forgiveness, forgiving yourself, forgiving God. Lots of people forget that because a child will instantaneously go to the word why. Why is a pull down of energy, a condensation of of sorts, to condense your energy away from source God energy. Protection. Why, God, are you letting this? And then there's like the anger of this can't be. I'm 5 years old, 6 years old, and I don't want that to happen. And then they'll find themselves having to do everything. I'll just do it. I can do it faster. I was in that state of mind for a while. No, I'll just do it myself. And that's a disconnect from God, of thinking that you can't, no one else can help you, even source. Yeah, pretty amazing.
That's really amazing. So how do you work with people? Is it all one-on-one? Do you do group coaching? Do you teach people how to do what you do? How does
Yes,
all
yes,
that
yes,
look?
yes. Yes, yes, yes. So I teach intuitive development. I
Mhm.
love the one-on-one because I do more than just teaching. I clear the limiting beliefs as I'm teaching, because lots of stuff will come up. And the number one always happens at 4 months is, I'm not God. What if I'm wrong? Always happens. So I have to clear that limiting belief and feeling and trusting your inner knowing. So I teach intuitive development. Most of my clients are women, but I would say about 90%, but I do have men. And couples, I love it. When I was on the show, the couples exploded into, because they could see how I could help them solidify their love and stop arguing in places they don't know why they're arguing, but they just can't get their point across. And so I help them understand why one is being triggered, because again, just like I was picking up on you, I'll pick up on the wife, and I'll tell them, all right, this is what I'm seeing. What I do, I love this process really quick, is they'll sitting next to me, they're sort of angled in toward me, but toward each other. So half, and I'll draw a heart because they're oneness, but I'll start on one side with one of them. And then I'll literally go around their energy and what I see in my mind's eye. And literally it's almost like a projection, like a holograph that comes through my mind and through my eyes. And I'll see, oh man, she's really disconnected from source, because that's the crown. And I'm like, oh wow, she's not even. So I'll explain that, oh, she struggles with being able to trust beyond. So she's struggling trusting what's happening with her partner, even though she's saying, I trust you. But it's not, it's that inner trusting, right? Is it going to get done? Is it going to get how I want it done? Because remember, if you're disconnected from God, you're saying you have to do it all. So how I want it done. So then it's like me sharing all that inside her, because when they come to me, it's very intimate. And then I tell him how to respond to what how she's responding. And then I'll do the heart around him. And I can always tell if they're in the relationship altogether, if they're halfway out. And I'll tell them, we're going to work this. We're going to push that energy back in. So you're 100% in, even if she doesn't want to hear it, because I start by telling the couples, I'm going to tell you things that you may not know. If you don't like his mother and I'm picking it up, I'm going to say it. But I also know not to say if there's some physical trauma that happened. They may not have shared the partner with the partner. I know not to share that kind of stuff. If it's affecting the relationship tremendously, I'm going to call the person later, or I'll talk to them before they leave. But the mother thing and the halfway in, they're responding that way, so that it's nothing new, but it's clarity that I'm seeing it. And so I will tell her how to respond to him and why he's struggling, and then to help them negotiate through things. And the tip of managing at a dining room table versus the bedroom. Bedroom is intimate. You do not want to have a conversation about working through things in your intimate setting. Dining room table is where we're talking about life, and we're sharing school if the kids are at the table, and we're talking about work. And eating is that safety of, let's talk about what's happening. So then you want to negotiate or talk about something that's really troubling you at the dining room table. I tell my kids, I have two little girls. Well, they're 28 and 26 now, but it's still my little girls.
You're still little girls.
Yes, they are. I love them so much. And I taught them, when I had to ask 100 times to clean their room, I finally called them down to the dining room table And I said, this is a safe space. So if I cry, it's okay. If you cry, it's okay. But we're going to cry it out together. And every time I would cry and say, and they know that would like, they start trembling because I would say, this is how deep it's hurting me. And so I want to know how we can come to a conclusion and meet in the middle. Instead of me telling 10 times, can I tell it one time? And they're like, you're not giving me enough time. Say, what does it look like for you? And so we'll go back and forth until it ends up being 2 or 3 times. And that I can deal with. But then I'll say, if I see patterns, we're coming back to the table. And so we all know that it's safe to cry, it's safe to go deep and intimate and to share. And that's what I do with my clients. I don't just say, all right, this is the way it is, move on. I shift it and I help them with the tips and tricks. And then I work with children. Oh, I just have an amazing story, but it'll take too long with a little 4-year-old. He still asks for me and he's 10 now. He's such an amazing little gem. What a story.
Oh, you should tell a story. Go ahead.
The story is so profound. It's amazing. So I was working with a client who was a clinical social worker, and she was sent this 4-year-old because the mother went to a pediatrician. He wasn't eating for 4 days. The pediatrician said, I'm going to send you to the clinical social worker, who works specifically with children. Well, she was working with me, and she said, oh no, he doesn't need me. He needs Terrie. So the mother brought me in, and the clinical social worker, my client, came as well. I sat the child on the floor, and I was just talking to him. I was hugging him, and the mom told me the story, excuse me, where he was in the tub. She was encouraging him to do what he needed to do to finish up getting ready for bed while she was there, and gave him a piece of candy. So he was so happy and they were doing their thing, and there was a knock on the door. Dad was downstairs, but mom turned to grab the towel to dry him. As soon as she turned, these little kids, they're like lightning. He jumps out and ran past her. I mean, that's how fast it happened. He wanted to know who was at the door. It was grandma. So when he got down to the bottom stairs, while he was running, he breathed in this hard piece of candy stuck in his throat. By the time he got down to the bottom of the stairs, he's pointing at his throat, grabbing his dad's leg. Couldn't breathe. He was choking. Mom has some medical background, ran behind, dad screaming. She gave him the Heimlich, out it popped. Thank God mom was there. Thank God. So, but now he wouldn't eat because now everything's going to kill him, right? Food, anything in your mouth. He has the emotional connection in that moment that food is going to kill him. So when he came to his 4 days, I put my hands around his throat, shifted the energy so that he'll eat, gave him something while he was there. He was eating it. It was wonderful. But I left a little tidbit for the mother, and I said, be careful. I said, do not buy that shape or form or the exact candy again. I said, it will trigger him until he clearly knows that all the food he's eating is safe. A couple of months later, she forgot, had the piece of candy, and in one of those Easter eggs, he opened it up. He stopped eating again. She came to me. She said, you warned me. So this time he was laying on the table, and it was so magical. I watched him. I put my hand on his stomach and his back. The stomach is the portal of emotions, and I wanted the energy to go all the way through like a water faucet. Oh, I'm getting emotional. I could feel it. And I watched him slowly curl into the fetal position. And as he was moving his hand up, his thumb went into his mouth. It was so magical, like a magnet. The mother watched the whole thing. Then he started just sucking his thumb and rocking slightly in this fetal position. And the mother says, my son doesn't suck his thumb. I looked at her, put my hands up and said, I didn't put it in there. So what I actually did was took him back to being reborn, to know that it's safe. And it was just all through the solar plexus, that portal of emotion, and shifting out everything. And he magically transformed back to being reborn. And she said, Terrie, he's a completely different child. She said, he's fun, he's active, and he's 10. And he came to see me it was about 6 months ago. But the sister was triggering and the mom was triggering on other things. And they all came to me, but he remembers everything. He runs into my arms and he lays there, and he was having some challenges with school. that was allowing him to supersize from that. And another little story, I saw I saw one sister out of three, and now I'm seeing them again. And I saw the sister the oldest at 7, and she's 14 now. And when I see all of them, I'm working on all three again. The one that I saw when she was 7, she's grounded. She speaks eloquently at 14. She's a dynamo. And I'm like, wow, you got it together. I started telling her, you're going to go to New York for college. She goes, how did you know that? She said, that's where I want to go. Because see, I just look at a map real quick and I start thinking about their future, especially with children between 14, 15, 16, about their college and what they're going to do. And so, but the other two, oh, they're just struggling. And I told the mom, I said, man, I just wish I could have seen them back then, because it was all about the divorce and how they all responded. But the mom only sent the oldest, and then the dad shut the other two down to come see me. And now they're struggling. How many years? 7 years later, really struggling. And so it could have been so much different. But then she didn't know, and she was just trying to work through him when he said, don't let them see her. And I changed the entire life with the oldest one, where she feels grounded and she's not owning any struggles, even 7 years later, between the parents. So it's so profound. And you don't have to say, I don't see anything. It's the life as you're living, you see how it's changed. It could be so instantaneous as you walk out the door, or it could take a couple of hours, couple of weeks, couple of months. But you will see how things, and there are no coincidences. So stop saying, oh, this is a coincidence. It's not.
And be actively looking for things to happen, because sometimes things happen that are so subtle, but they're
Yes.
profound, but they're
Yes.
subtle.
Yes. Well, it's about being present, isn't it?
Mhm.
And when the subtle things, I mean, you could miss it. Sometimes I'll think about something and then I'll get in the car. And then, like, at the tail end of something, I said, oh, I almost missed it because I was thinking about something else, but I just asked for that before I left the house. Yes.
My point exactly.
Yes. Yes.
I know you offer the ThetaStream, the 15-minute guided meditation. You want to talk about that a little bit and how people can get
Yes.
it?
Yes, yes. So thank you. So, I wanted to make sure there was a tool for success. That's what I call these things. Your cell phone is your tool for success, for your calendar and things like that. But Theta, Theta Stream is a 15-minute guided meditation that has theta sound in the background. So within that theta sound, it takes you to the deeper level of the mind. Everyone must be meditating. You have to. It's like, if you're not brushing your teeth, then that's okay. You don't have to meditate, but everybody brushes their teeth. So you got to meditate. So meditate is allowing you to receive your answers, to quiet your mind, to go within, to trust with what is within. And then with that theta sound, it can take you deeper so that you are profoundly getting these answers, and you come back out and you're like, oh my God, I got to write that down. That was amazing. Or, oh, that just told me that I'm going to have an argument with somebody. Okay, I'll be prepared. It'll be good. I mean, I've had those I just shared a personal experience. And so with with ThetaStream, just, go to the website or the link wherever we have it, and then download it for free, and then use it, because all you need is 15 minutes to go down deeply.
Feels so good.
Yes. And it's for you too, dear.
I appreciate it. I'll use it. I love those theta brainwave
Yes. Yes. And
downloads, because
yeah,
they
I'm
work
going to
kind of
add
like magic.
yes, yes, thank you. I'm going to add a little bit more. So if somebody has a regular meditation practice, I tell them, look, guided meditation is with words. And so when your mind releases the resistance, then your mind is just following the guided meditation. But over time, the mind will say, you don't have to do that anymore. But what it'll appear like is boring, or it's not working. Because that's the thing, like, oh, okay. So your mind is saying, I don't need to be controlled anymore. I don't need to follow these words. So then move to sounds of nature, or instruments like piano and things like that, right? So that's soothing, and make it the tone in the background, so that now, because you have released the resistance of having your mind control and you have to hold it because you released it to the guided meditation, you are automatically going to go to the deeper level of the mind, specifically with my ThetaStream because of theta sound. But then once your mind like gets it, then you can relinquish the guided meditation and move to that other thing. A lot of people miss that key component and they still continue to do guided meditations. And that's why they feel like they're not working, because your mind's going, I'm good now.
Guided meditations I think of as like bubble gum for your active mind, because if you're just starting out meditating, your mind wants to like wander all over the place and talk to you and, hey, don't you remember this? And what about that? And it's really difficult in the beginning. I just want to acknowledge that for most people, to get your mind to a place where it can just be still enough for you to exist in the moment without having to think about the thoughts that you're having. And that's really the thing, is thinking about what you're thinking about.
Yes.
Um,
So
so
especially with type A people, right?
yeah.
So, you know,
So
they're constantly, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
you're
Yes,
giving
please.
them the bubble gum. It
Mm-hmm.
gives your mind something to focus on because it's having to focus on those words. And after a while, the words, it's like stale gum. Your mind already knows the words, so it doesn't work anymore. So then it starts chattering at you that I already know these words. So you don't have to,
Yes.
I need new, fresh gum
Yes. Yes. Yes.
to give
Yes,
it something
absolutely.
different.
Yes. So I'm glad you're bringing up, you know, it is, we can label hard. The thing is, it's a new practice. It's something new. And the first thing we as learning beings, this is hard. When if you
Everything
can
is hard when
replace,
you first start.
but then replace it as it's new. And when we have something new, we lean into it versus leaning away when it's hard, right? I want to lean, this is something new. And it took me 3 months to really know how to meditate. And I realized, like, I gave the golden nugget about guided meditation versus sounds of nature and so on. And most people aren't told that. They'll continue to use a guided meditation and they're like, oh, okay, this is, but it's not, it's just getting past the chatter in the brain, the resistance that your mind has had because you're type A or that you have a lot going on, and being able to feel comfortable without falling asleep. I was falling asleep for 3 weeks out of those 3 months, three threes, I love them. But it was 3 weeks. And I said, nope, I'm going to do whatever it takes. If anyone ever follows me, you'll hear that a lot. You do whatever it takes. I was a single mom at the time. There was kids. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get up an hour early. I know I'm only getting 5 hours, but that was for me. I know I couldn't do that, but you know what? How dedicated are you to your own transformation? I lived what I didn't want. And I said, no matter what, this transformation is going to be about me. I was willing to go to 5 hours a day and sleep and make it happen and learn, because there were no books out there on meditation. I had to figure it out and incorporate certain things. And that's why meditation is so key, because it's a part of your transformation. It's your trusting self. It's you receiving answers. It's saying that, yes, you're a master manifester, but you can also do it through meditation or have that as a component of.
I love it. So how do people get in touch with you? If they want to work with you or learn more.
Yes, thanks, Jill. Yeah, through, well, Google my name and there's about 20 pages worth. So, but you know, I have a website, terriechristine.com, and that's TERRIE, Christine.com, where you can get the guided meditation. And there's so many other offerings I have on the website. And I have Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. On TikTok, you'll see that I pull pictures. Yes, pictures have blueprints of energy, so I can read what's going on in a person's life through a picture. I have many people bring in their partners and say, tell me about them. Please don't ask me if they're cheating, because it hurts me to reveal that. So there's other things I focus on, you, not, you know, what's going on, right? So TikTok, and Google, because there's so many avenues that I've been on, and I'm currently in Love and Marriage DC, season 1 and 2, and I had an episode of Real Housewives of Potomac. I was on that for a minute. Yes.
That is so fun. This has been an amazing and very insightful conversation. Thank you so much for joining me. What's the one thing that you hope the audience takes away from what we've talked about today?
Jill, thank you. First off, I'm fully grateful and I'm honored. I'm honored that you felt that, this could be something that your listeners would get something from. So I'm truly grateful. It's about trust and knowing. So knowing that you can trust and trust that you can know. So it's a combination. They equally are the same and equal value of trusting and knowing that how you're living now is not going to be how you're living tomorrow or 10 years from now. And empowering yourself to say, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to take baby steps. I gave you all these pieces of your puzzle to put together. You have to choose to step in. The choice is always yours.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Jill. I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.